This is the Cover 3 Tailgate. And welcome back to the Cover 3 podcast here on CBS Sports. That's Tom Fornelli. That's Danny Kanell. That's Bud Elliott. I'm Chip Patterson coming to you live at youtube.com/cover3 and everywhere you get your podcasts on demand. Thanks for hanging out. Smash that subscribe. Smash that like and come and join us in the chat, a.k.a. the Cover 3 Tailgate, where Parker says, I hope y'all are ready for 5 inches of snow in Fort Worth on Thursday. You're darn right we're ready, because this is Tailgate Week. Thursday, Tannehill's Tavern and Music Hall, Cover 3, first ever live show. And we are so excited for everybody that's going to be there. Ohio State fans, Texas fans, y'all are going to want to be somewhere warm. Y'all are going to want to be somewhere cozy. So come and get cozy with us at Tannehill's, where we will be warming ourselves up with a live show from 5 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. Central. That will lead into the start of the Orange Bowl semifinal between Penn State and Notre Dame. A little bit of a watch party there as well. Again, you don't want to be hopping around from place to place. Just come hang out with Cover 3. If you RSVP, your name is on the list. There are ticketed options which allow you to reserve special seating, as well as maybe get you some gifts and goodies from the Cover 3 family. So make sure that you are on the list. Don't make this a last minute thing. Scan that QR code to RSVP for the Cover 3 Tailgate Live on Thursday, Tannehill's Tavern and Music Hall. That is the day before the Cotton Bowl between Ohio State and Texas. And we look forward to seeing everybody there. It's going to be an awesome time. We have enjoyed all of our time together, but now we get to do it with you, and that's going to be great. Question from the tailgate. If it snows, will Tom be shirtless or in his robe?
Will you be able to tell the difference?
We'll be indoors.
I mean, yeah. Will the robe make an appearance? Robes are bulky. You know, when you're thinking about packing, that's going to be something that you got to take into consideration. So, you know, we'll see if it makes the cut. All right.
Oh, real quick. I played golf yesterday. Member here at my club. One of our members at our club, Dominic, regular listener, Dom. First of all, he was kind of on Bud about his picks this year because he said he always tails Bud's picks. He said pick it up next year. So he's trusting he'll do a better job, which we know you will. So I said, are you going to go to Dallas? Because he said, I listen all the time. So you're going to go to Dallas. He said, I have tickets to the Orange Bowl. He lives here in South Florida. But he said, my brother lives in Dallas. So I'm telling my brother to go. So Dominic's brother, I don't even know your name, but you better be there.
Probably couldn't afford the plane ticket after losing all that money on Bud's bets.
That's true. Now, did he lose money to you today in golf?
He did, but it's okay. We'll let him get it back another time.
What is the Danny game? Like we kind of know what the Jordan game is. Like
as far as
50 Nassau.
You're saying the game.
What's the DK game? Yeah.
We do it. It's kind of standard with the group I play with. It's 50-50, 100.
Okay.
So for Nassau.
So not 25K, 20K.
No. Not a nickel. Not a nickel aside. You know, none of that stuff. Or a dime. None of that.
All right, but what about side bets? Do we have side bets out there? We're going greenies? Yeah. Okay.
My buddy hit we were playing Wolf, and he hit so he went lone, and my buddy Brian, I think they were 9Xing it on the final hole. And you guys know what a Saddam is?
He's a guy that was in charge of Iraq.
All right, so a Saddam is par or better 2 bunkers. And so he went Saddam birdie. So fairway bunker, green side bunker, dunked out of the green side. And Wes had to reach deep into the wallet that day. It was amazing.
I'm implementing Saddams into my match.
Yeah, I was going to say.
So it's a sandy birdie Saddam, and Saddam's 10x.
Wow.
We'll have an off-season Cover 3 mailbag episode where maybe we can build a glossary, the Cover 3 golf gambling dictionary, and be able to, if you don't have, we would accept anything. We'll work it into our games. We can tell you what we do for ours. Lots to get to today, as this is going to be our opportunity to go big game breakdown style on Penn State, Notre Dame, and Texas and Ohio State. Maybe even a little bit of a punt for the review. If there's anything lingering from the quarterfinal action from late last week that we want to make sure that we hit, that we did not. But I wanted to begin because certainly there has been a couple deadlines that have passed and a lot of movement along the way. So let's start by jumping in to the portal. At some point, your rating continues to change, and whether or not it is a big topic is always going to change the way that the conversation goes. And the reason why I mentioned that is there are former 5-star players who now continue to be on the move. Among them, we've got Georgia quarterback Jaden Rashada has entered the portal. We remember he was at Arizona State. Oh, excuse me. Florida, Miami, Arizona State, Georgia, and now back in the portal once again. Also, Malachi Nelson, who was at USC, 5-star player. Then he goes to Boise State, does not beat out Maddox Madsen. Now he moves on to UTEP. We also have the Branch brothers committing to the Bulldogs, Zachariah Branch and his brother. But of this latest wave of portal movement, what starts to stand out in terms of something that could trigger dominoes, or what does some of this reflect in terms of the needs and the views of some of the teams involved?
So I think you got to look at some of the inaction so far. Like, who's going to quarterback Oregon? Who's going to quarterback Miami? Who's going to quarterback Notre Dame next year?
Yeah.
Right? Like, that to me has quite a bit of intrigue. Sort of the lack of quality quarterbacks available in the portal, and how much money some of these guys who I think are okay or decent, or perhaps slightly better than decent, are reported to have got. Like, is the Mensah kid really getting $3 million a year or whatever? Like, that's a lot of money. Malachi Nelson going to UTEP is interesting. I think if you're playing the odds, we messed up that rating. Okay.
Right.
Like, 5 stars don't go to UTEP. Wherever Rashad is going to go, very, very high chance he's a bust at this point. And won't make it. Now, JT Daniels ended up being really good for Rice. So we do have some evidence that, depending on why you transferred, why it wasn't working, Daniels just never really could stay healthy, right? And then got beat out by somebody who was really good at some point too. So if you're getting beat out by a stud, but Rashada getting beat out by Stockton, to me, Stockton is potentially promising, but he's not a bona fide stud right now. Those are obviously those are going to be misses by us.
Don't you think?
I'm not on drugs, by the way, for the chat. I'm just feeling better, honestly.
Go ahead, Daddy.
I've always felt like this new era with the portal being open on an annual basis was going to be like minor league baseball, and where we always talk about the moving up, the guys that are stolen from the group of 5. They're very much as guys that get sent down from the big leagues to the minor leagues. And I think that's what you're seeing happen. And it happens in baseball. You see first-round picks who may start in double or triple A because they feel like they're really close. Can't hit a curveball. They get sent down. It's going to be this organic system that's kind of developing right in front of our eyes where the cream will rise to the top. And if you can't get it done, even if you're a 5-star, you'll probably have to go down if you want to start. Before, there might be a guy who was a 5-star and he maybe didn't want to leave and they just keep him hanging around. He kind of linger on a roster, maybe play. And then if he didn't, he could transfer later. But I think the 3 and 4 year transfer guys are essentially kind of minor leaguers that are just bouncing around looking for a place to play. Like you mentioned, JT Daniels. Yes, he was good at Rice, but he probably always should have been at Rice. That's a level where I think he was pretty good at because he finally found a place where his talent was, transferable in that level.
Do you think that Georgia is choosing Gunnar Stockton if Rashada is gone? Or do you think that Georgia has let it be known that they're going to be looking for somebody from the portal that would be placed ahead of Rashada?
Dude, who's out there?
Right.
But yes, I think they're probably open for business.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, between Rashada and Malachi Nelson, at this point, I'm just like, all right, cool. We'll see whatever happens with them wherever they end up. For me, when the more interesting thing is Georgia getting the Branch brothers. And the interesting part of it to me is because Zach Branch, like, very excited about him when we first saw him as a freshman, like just electric, big time playmaker. But I don't really think he's developed past that. Like we talked about, one of the problems with Georgia's receiving core this year has been that they don't have actual receivers. They have gadget guys. Zach Branch, to me, is a gadget guy. He is like a punt returner more than he is a receiver, where you're just trying to get him the ball in space and have him, run punt return left, punt return right, see if he can make some guys miss and run for a touchdown. So I think it's interesting as far as the talent, and you can use. I'm not saying he can't be used in certain ways, because you definitely can use him. It's just he's not somebody I look at as a receiver. So I don't know. I still feel like that's something Georgia's gonna have to address. I think that's more interesting to me than what they're doing at quarterback, honestly.
Well, didn't you say it too? Like he looks like a Georgia wide receiver, because all of these Georgia wide receivers have been little gadget guys that you're just trying to get them the ball in open space and see if they can go make a guy miss. That's, to that point, Zach Branch fits perfectly. Let's run some jet sweeps to Zach Branch. Let's throw these cute little tunnel screens, and let's be able to see if we can create an explosive play that way. He's a super gifted player. I'm not surprised that he ends up going to a place where it's a top-notch program, but he does not change my outlook on the wide receiver position in ways that my uninformed self would necessarily be looking to target different kinds of bodies and skill sets.
Isn't he like a pretty good approximation of Arian Smith?
Yeah, but maybe
better. Also,
can we or Arian Smith in the role intended, like before they lost the two guys to domestic violence stuff? I know the one got dropped, right? Or like whatever that's going to be the resolution there. But I mean, can he be your gadget guy plus a little bit more?
You'd hope, but that's the thing. He's been at USC, where he's been in a Lincoln Riley offense, where he's typically been pretty good at getting those guys roles and finding ways to use them. And he just, I don't know, maybe it was the QB situation. Maybe we can pin it all on Miller Moss and Jaden Maeva, but I don't know. I don't like, he was super exciting as a freshman, and I thought he was going to be an absolute superstar, and it just hasn't happened.
Can I bring up something I think is really interesting?
Of course.
Lane Kiffin said something after his game, or maybe it was during the game. Might have been during the fourth quarter, because he was doing exactly what we thought he was going to do. He was trying to run it up on Duke to prove a point. But when he was asked about Jackson Dart, he was raving about him. And then he said something about, there was a question about the NFL, and he said, or maybe he's back next year, with a little wink and a little wry smile. John Rothstein, CBS Sports basketball reporter, did say this past weekend, or a couple days, maybe it was Friday, about, and we've talked about this, I think, on here before. He's not the first one to report it, but it's been out there that everyone might get 5 years of eligibility. When does that decision come? And think about what it means for potentially a guy like Riley Leonard, because Riley Leonard's got 4 years. He's done, unless they come say you can have 5 years of eligibility. That makes things really interesting. And a place like Ole Miss, if you're Jackson Dart and you could potentially come back. Now, I like him. I think he's a pretty good draft prospect, but I think he probably still could make more money and have a really good situation on his hands at Ole Miss. Do any of you guys have any info on when we might get an answer, and like who it would impact? Would it go into effect immediately?
I don't know.
I have no idea. I think Lane was just being Lane.
No, but I think that a lot of people are in this position where they might be wondering, can I get another year, or do I have to go to the NFL? Like, and maybe be a 5th or a 6th round pick, or can I play one more year and try to boost my stock to a 1st, 2nd, or 3rd round pick? I think there's a lot of players that would love to come back. I mean, what was interesting, I did a training camp tour with the Miami Dolphins, and I talked to their safety from Oregon. I forget his name right now. And I think he was he might have been a 2nd round pick. And we were joking with him after we were done. We're like, man, would you have stayed in college another year if you could have? He's like, heck yeah, if I could have made another 500,000 or whatever it was. Like, yeah, I think there's a lot of guys that would stay another year if they're allowed to. So I think this is a decision that needs to be like paid attention to, because the impact it could potentially have.
I think it'd be great, honestly. we know Dylan Gabriel more because he was an established star. Like there's so many of these guys who probably are a little more set for the college than the NFL. Like, I mean, what if Quinn Ewers gets 2 more years of NIL? Like that would be incredible.
Would it? No, I'm just kidding. Danny, last I checked, and this is not necessarily, this is more house related, like the employment case. The next big date is in April for that. That was the last I checked on that and I don't know how closely the 5 years of eligibility is tied specifically to the settlement, but even some of the settlement stuff is falling down when it comes to getting these details locked in and getting the judge to sign off on everything. Our friend Matt Brown, friend of the podcast, who's joined us and helped us understand this a lot. I know that his Extra Point newsletter, very good. Shout out to Extra Points. No, he said that he's concerned we're not at the finish line. Like as much as we get closer to these dates, actually finalizing the details of the House settlement has gotten a lot more complicated. And so he said, he wrote that, I believe, he was getting less confident that we're going to have some finality on that. So the answer for Jackson Dart might be that he's screwed with everything hanging in the balance, where he has to choose between, okay, now it's time to go to the NFL to meet all their deadlines. And that might be too soon before we've got any final answer in terms of whether he would get another year of eligibility in college. I will say on the Riley Leonard thing, it does seem like he's gone. I mean, didn't he go through senior day? They're kind of ushering him.
Yeah, because they didn't know it was an option. But if it's an option, then I think it gets more interesting.
Like, can Riley Leonard play in the NFL with the way he throws? Like, Danny, do you think he throws well enough?
Unless somebody finds him a Taysom Hill type role, but those aren't like Taysom Hill is a freaky athlete. So is Riley Leonard, but
can Jalen Milroe play in the NFL?
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
Do you think Milroe can?
I think so. I think he's going to go like first round.
I think his overall skill set will be more enticing because I think that arm-wise, people will be more intrigued by his arm than they will be by Riley Leonard's. But going back to the 5 years of eligibility thing, I very much worry about the unintended consequences of that because high school is still 4 years. So it messes up the cycle of players moving in and moving out and new guys coming in. We've already seen high school recruiting kind of take a back seat in recent years because of the COVID years of eligibility, which again, it messes up the cycle. We're seeing fewer and fewer kids playing football in youth sports as it is across the country. And if there's less incentive of them to be able to get to college because those jobs are, I'm calling them what they are, because those jobs are already taken, we're going to see even less enrollment in youth sports as far as football is concerned going forward, which I think would impact the sport. So I think it's fun. I think coaches kind of like the idea of having a guy for 5 years.
Yeah.
I think it's good for the long-term health of the sport.
How do you square that with like the increased roster size? Like, do we think we'll still have room for guys?
Maybe it's like we've already kind of seen.
And I'm not arguing that side, by the way. I'm just
well, at 105, some rosters are getting cut and other rosters now have room to grow.
But not scholarship guys.
Right.
It's just the number 39 for Georgia type guys.
He's gonna have to go play for Sanford. Yeah.
Can I just say it? I'm probably wrong, but just looking at him, I feel like I could beat him. Like I could line up across from him. I could beat him on a route. That's just the way I looked at it.
On a route?
Yeah,
bro,
I could take him.
Tom, his highlights are they're not terrible. Did you see the high school highlights?
I'm just saying.
They're out there? I didn't know they were out there.
I feel like a guy with that haircut, he can't cover me.
Can we also like discuss this ref? And look, it's the correct call.
He had his feelings hurt.
The player's in the white, and pretty much anytime you hit a ref and he's in the white, you're getting the flag. Like, it's correct. I don't think he was like, feelings hurt over it necessarily. I'm sure they've already told him like, hey, like stay off. They always say stay off the white. Anything around the sideline, stay off the white. But that's close, man. Like that kid is barely on the white, and that ref is hugging the sideline side of the white. Do we need to make the white wider?
I think he messed up. Sorry,
the ref or 39?
30. The part. Are we not saying his name?
No, I don't know his name. I know his name or something like that. Some frat boy name.
Parker. Oh, golly, he came in all kinds of trouble when he was down in New Orleans.
Did you see Kirby copied the Saban thing about like, hey, hold on, can I say something at the end of the press conference? And like, how much I love these guys.
Thank everybody.
Yeah. I just I thought that he messed. I mean, there was a litany of things that went wrong for Georgia that were self-inflicted in that game. And when you've got that as the whole body of work, I'm throwing that in there with an offsides penalty that gives him a first down. Like I'm throwing that in there with a bunch of and it was good players too. It wasn't just Parker Jones. It was like Jalen Walker is making mistakes that end up like having a huge impact on the game. It was just it was a mistake-laden evening for the Georgia Bulldogs in that loss to Notre Dame. All right. Anything else from the transfer portal?
Transfer portal show today on 24/7 Sports at 1 to 3 Eastern.
You'll be on it?
Like 1:30, yeah.
All right, cool. Check it out. 24/7 Sports YouTube channel around 1 Eastern. All right. Coming up on the other side, we continue with one final word on the quarterfinal round and then our big game breakdown for the college football playoff semifinals and more next. Back here on the Cover 3 podcast. Not a lot of time left to go back under the hood, but one more. It's fun for the review. There were terrible calls. Do we want to go ahead and jump in?
After further review.
Yeah, so we mentioned that the Sugar Bowl final and the result, a little bit of time to maybe do an autopsy of what we saw out of Oregon or what we did not see out of Oregon. Any sort of lingering takeaways from the quarterfinal round?
We don't think that Ohio State was sitting on all this stuff all season, right?
No.
Like they figured out, hey, this is what we kind of have to run with what the offensive line configuration is. It's going to be like a lot of like misdirection, ball out quick type stuff, more motion. Okay.
Do you think? I don't think
so. I don't think you can possibly risk that.
Yeah.
That would be stupid. Very,
but it
stupid.
is a little different.
So here's my thought. It's a new quarterback. It is a new offensive coordinator. And as you mentioned, it was an offensive line that was in flux all throughout the season. And that's why there is sort of some inconsistencies in the way that they performed and the way that they approached things throughout the regular season. And then with a full, couple weeks to do some self-scouting, they were able to take the time to put in place, to get a little healthier too. They were able to put in place what worked the best and really sort of elevate it, take it to the next level. Like that to me seems perfectly sane logic that given all of the new pieces offensively that they weren't sitting on anything. They just had to figure out what worked. And then they finally have, and it just happens to be here in college football's second season.
Yeah, which I think this goes to the hilarity about the bye argument, by the way, because Ohio State had 21 days between the loss to Michigan and the Tennessee game. So they had 3 weeks to work on new stuff and figure things out. And they came out and they've looked a little different, but they had 3 weeks to prepare. The 21 days off wasn't a problem for them, but the 24 days off, oh man, that killed Oregon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought your column on that was good, by the way.
Thank you.
What is it? We're holding stuff back, even if it did happen, which I don't think it did. I think they've been more aggressive and I think they've been more confident. But how does that explain the defense being so dominant too? Because we saw that defense against Oregon the first time and they, got pushed around. They got scored on. Now all of a sudden they are aggressive on defense too.
And I think that's what it is. They were just a lot more aggressive in that game. Like they were daring them to do it. And I don't think Oregon expected it.
Do you think some of that comes back to once they lose to Michigan, they're like, screw it. Like, let's just go out there. If we're going to go out, let's go out in a blaze of glory. Let's just be more aggressive, take the shots, call the blitzes, like go for the jugular. It feels like they're a different mentality since the loss to Michigan.
I think part of it for sure is that, but I also think as far as the matchup with Oregon, like Jordan James was banged up in the first half and missed a ton of it. Evan Stewart wasn't really playing. I think those losses, because like if we think about who really took advantage of them in that first game with those deep balls, it was Evan Stewart burning guys deep. He wasn't there. And
Yeah.
it's so
I've got a romantic vibes explanation for the defensive side. Okay.
Okay.
Cody Simon, senior. Lathan Ransom, senior. Jack Sawyer, senior. JTT, senior. Ty Hamilton, senior. Denzel Burke, senior. This is it. I mean, I just think that it's what it would like the effort, focus, like whatever you want to say. Like when Jack Sawyer is like shaking Ryan Day as the fight is going down at midfield, like there has been something that has been ignited within this group of old dudes that are just like, whatever you've got, like we are pouring it out right now. And I think that pairs well with Jim Knowles in terms of the way he's going to call something, if he feels better about them being able to get home, or if he feels better about whatever extra percentage of effort, energy, or focus is going to be required for them to be able to stay in coverage for just a little bit longer. I just think he's got an old, experienced group that has always been super talented, but is just kind of amped up just a little bit more because this is it. Whatever decisions you've made have led you to try to chase a national championship. And like you even said, Danny, just so tight with that Michigan game and with trying to secure the spot in the Big Ten title. And now it's just play free, let it rip. And that's what we're seeing right now is an old, experienced, talented group with a chip on its shoulder, just ready to go out there and blaze of glory.
Can I put a theory?
Sure.
Yeah,
I think that Ohio State's defense has been actually playing at the same level basically since the Oregon game. I think they made some strategic changes to play downs a little closer to the line of scrimmage. I think they played more of that like kind of free safety look. But I think they did not really face what we would call like a top 10 offense in the sport. And so the question still remained, like, how would it look when they faced, and like as luck would have it, Oregon again?
Right.
When they finally face that team again, how would it look? Like, look, I mean, Nebraska scored 17. One of those was a short field, right? Penn State scored 13 in Happy Valley. They shut out Purdue. Northwestern scored 7. Indiana scored 15. Michigan scored 13, right? Tennessee 17. I think they've been playing like this for like defensively for 2 months. They just really hadn't. There's sort of that like covariant thing. It's like good against bad. Are you also good against good? Or like we knew they were good against decent, but could they be good against like really good? And like Oregon's offense, I do think is really good. Maybe to Tom's point, without James, without Evan Stewart, with Barber going down as well in the first half, maybe like not maybe, definitely a lot less good. But I think they've been playing like this for a while now. The offense to me was the big question. Like the offense is the thing that the last 2 games is different. I mean, 42 on Tennessee, 41 on Oregon is big time.
Yep.
Not a lot of cheapies. Like how many short fields do they have in those games?
Mm-hmm.
Just as you were running through it, I was thinking about also the way that Ohio State's defense, our eyes might not have taken it the same way because Penn State moved it. They just couldn't punch it in. Like those.
That is fair.
We got to see Penn State move the ball against this Ohio State defense in a way we're like, uh-oh. And then they got those timely stops. We probably were not giving enough credit for the stops. When Penn State probably would have moved that ball against anybody, just with that being a strength. And I guess just one last thing to circle back to it, because I know that I said I was workshopping it and I kind of stumbled into it. I think because a lot of people reached out and they said, can anyone tell this dumbass Chip how playoffs work? I even had the Webster's Dictionary of Playoffs sent to me. And I just want to say that's the point, right? Like I'm saying that college football for a long time has not had playoffs. It has not had a scenario where there was one season and then you kind of wipe the slate clean, invite the best of the best and let them go at it again. Like that second season in baseball, in the NBA, in the NFL, it is the team that can win the playoffs. I mean, in some of those leagues, it's just a team that can survive and be healthy enough. I mean, Stanley Cup is a random number generator, and we love it. We celebrate the playoffs. But my argument is college football hasn't had that. Therefore, there was always more in the regular season. And so I do think the playoffs diminishes the regular season. It doesn't diminish the number of games with significant national impact in November because more teams have a shot at the playoff, but it absolutely diminishes how much value is held on the second Saturday in October when a team is going to go and potentially lose or lay an egg, because there's always a thought that as long as you can make it to the playoffs, then you wipe the slate clean, just let it go from there. The Tampa Bay Bucks just clinched the NFC South, and they looked, dead in the water, up and down season, injuries all over the place. But now they're sitting here. It's like all we wanted to do was just make it, and then we'll just take it one game at a time. And college football has that, but it's going to diminish the regular season, and it's going to disconnect our champion from the champions of the past. It's not, I don't like it. It might be a good thing for the sport in the big picture. But that was my point here, is that college football has always been different for this absence of a second season type playoff. And now we fully are in the playoff era, the expanded playoff era, which is going to crown team. And whoever wins here, by the way, it's not undeserving. As Tom mentioned, this is the 3, 4, 5, and 6 team according to the rankings. That's okay. These are all like championship caliber teams. But the format in general, I think, is just going to produce a little bit more of that second season approach.
If you want to use power ratings, it's even stronger. I'll just use FPI. FPI, you know what the rankings of the 4 teams remaining are?
Is Bama 2?
No, Bama's 4.
Oh, yeah. They'd definitely still be playing if it was power.
1, 2, 3, and 7. Real Cinderella stories going on here.
Yeah.
No conference champs. The bye got them. The bye got them.
So yeah, that's some clarification there on my part. All right. Anything else from the quarterfinals before we flush it and sharpen our focus on what's ahead? Nothing? All right. Coming up on the other side, big game breakdown for Penn State, Notre Dame, Texas, Ohio State, keys to the game, X factors, and more. Next.
CBS Sports HQ, giving you college football coverage unlike anyone else.
We're talking Big Ten.
Pre- and post-game coverage.
Are you encouraged with the way that this team responded?
Along with breaking news.
A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
Highlights and expert analysis.
That streak could be in jeopardy here.
Sure. What was your main takeaway from this game? How impressive was his domination?
That really changed the football game.
Let's go ahead and have some more fun.
Another wild ending. The chaos continues.
Turn to CBS Sports HQ.
Back here on the Cover 3 podcast, we have usually tackled this on a Wednesday, but this is a different time. We're in college football second season. Let's dive into the matchups. Big game breakdown. We begin with Thursday night's matchup down in Miami Gardens, Florida. Hard Rock Stadium will be the scene for Penn State against Notre Dame in the first semifinal matchup. We'll be watching it together with you at Tannehill's Tavern and Music Hall after we finish the Cover 3 live show on Thursday. So, Bud, when you're looking at this matchup and you're trying to figure out where it will like where the leverage will be established, where it will hinge, what are going to be some of the matchup points you've got your eyes on?
Are we doing Penn State, Ohio, or Penn State, Notre Dame first? Or are we doing? All right, cool. That's what I had pulled up. Sorry, you said the Tannehill's thing. I was like, we're going to see.
We're going to watch. We're going to be watching this game together. Yeah, for sure.
Gotcha. All right. So with this one, it's interesting because I think that both of these teams are going to be facing some things that maybe have not seen so far. For Penn State, how many mobile quarterbacks have they seen this year?
Jennings.
Yeah, they handled him really well.
Mm-hmm.
Howard, you could say, is kind of mobile, but he really hasn't run a ton this year.
Yeah, and he wasn't really running in that game either.
Yeah, in that game, it was like short yardage sneaks or, just enough to be able to extend a drive, get first downs.
It will be interesting to see how Penn State decides to play a guy who, Riley Leonard's legs are the biggest thing about that offense. Good point, by the way, from Beach Wine Guy, Green in the opener for the Mountaineers. Also a pretty good runner. So that would be another one there. How does Penn State decide to play this? Okay, obviously Abdul Carter, given all the Star Wars tweets, I think it'd be weird. He's in the healing Star Wars chamber. I would assume he's going to be able to play. for Penn State there. I don't think Penn State's defense is quite as good as Georgia's in some ways, but I think the gap is closer than it has been in prior years. So if you look at what Notre Dame did to Georgia, throwing the ball wasn't that great, right? But they were able to make things happen with the run game, by committing to it, sticking with it, and also Riley Leonard's legs. Like, that's the one thing. If I'm going down to the Irish, I'm going down with something other than Leonard's legs killing me. Like, cool. I like the backs. Obviously, if Love is healthy, it's going to be a huge, huge deal for them, because I do think he is some guy, like, he's somebody for them who turns good plays into great plays. And with all due respect to the other runners, I don't think they necessarily have that behind him. But I don't want to lose to Leonard's legs. That's the thing. Like, if my corners get beat, they get beat. Cool. That's the big thing for me. Like the takeaway there, you have to stop.
I talked to Tim O'Malley of Irish Illustrated.
Tim is great.
Tim is great. Tim did not have the brightest outlook for Jeremiah Love. As somebody who's been at practice, he said he went from a sleeve leading into the playoffs to now he's wearing a brace.
Mm-hmm.
He just did not seem very optimistic about Jeremiah Love in this game. Just kind of that it's kind of taking its toll. He's wearing down, just kind of going the wrong direction. I totally agree with you, but I think you say, good luck, Riley Leonard, with your arm. We'll do everything we can to stop you with your legs. We have to commit to that. He's been better as the season has gone on. He's been very efficient. And because you sell out, if I'm trying to, the first touchdown pass in the red zone, you get some pretty good looks because you have so many guys in the box, and you can take that quick. I think it was on the 10-yard line or something. It was inside where they just popped it right over and had the nice in-breaking route for the touchdown pass. Has there been a game where Riley Leonard is impressed with his arm? In the Indiana game, he was good, but it wasn't it's more decision-making and it's efficient. I just think you have to make him beat you with his arm, which is easier said than done, because Georgia's equipped probably as good as anybody to take away his legs. And they did, and they took away his arm too, but it still wasn't enough. But I do think Penn State is a better team offensively than Georgia.
For me,
than Georgia with Stockton, yeah, for sure.
I thought Riley threw the ball well against USC. I thought he threw it well in the Louisville game, but I don't think it's. Am I grading it on a Riley Leonard curve, or am I grading it on I don't know. But I have questions about both of these offenses in this game. I don't think this game will look all that different than the Georgia Notre Dame game. I think it's going to be low scoring, limited possessions. Don't screw up. Have all your walk-ons far off the sideline as possible. Just because if you look at Penn State in these two games that they have played, the offense has not been good. We talk about the path that they had by getting SMU and by getting Boise State. And yes, the SMU game, they had to play in the cold too. But if you look at their success rate on offense, they've played 15 games this year. The SMU and Boise State games, as far as offensive success rate, ranked 10th and 12th among all of their games. The offense has not been playing well. Not for that 58-yard run by Nick Singleton in the fourth quarter. That game would have looked a lot different to many of us, because that covered up a lot of, problems they were having. So this is the best defense by far that they will have faced in this playoff, even if it is banged up. How much faith do you have in Drew Aller in this passing attack, which has been mostly non-existent through the first two games, to be able to do it? Can you lean on Allen and Singleton to run at a Notre Dame front that is still missing Riley Mills, and it's as you have a good offensive line? So I do think Penn State's going to lean more into its run game to see if they could find any kind of edge against Notre Dame's front right now. I don't know if they'll find it, but I think they're going to try. And if they can't, are they going to be able to beat them through the air? Because they haven't really shown an ability to do it in the postseason yet.
So Notre Dame game one without Riley Mills still totally stuffed the run against Georgia.
But Georgia's been a dog crap rushing team all season. I was going
to say, is that more indicative of what Georgia's been all season? We don't know.
Yeah.
Than or Notre Dame still being able to have that kind of depth, still being able to have that kind of edge to them that they've had defensively all season long.
Mm-hmm. And I do think Marcus Freeman after the game was saying we were not afraid to be getting beat by the pass. I think they have to be a little bit more. And then there's the Tyler Warren impact too, which he's that again, like he's been all season long. That's sort of the X factor. And what does Notre Dame do with him and how do they contain him?
Do you go Xavier Watts?
At wide receiver?
So.
No.
What?
At wide receiver? I mean, he's got great hands.
Got great hands, yeah. 13 interceptions.
They play a ton of man, right?
They play a ton of man.
They could play some bracket on Warren if they want to. And maybe that's the solutions. Like, cool. Like we're very cool with our guys on the outside playing man. Like we're going to play a little like 2 bracket on Warren. You probably got to mix it up. I mean, you definitely have to mix it up. They're not going to play the same coverage every time, but against Georgia, they did a lot. I mean, like it was pretty much you get this look until you can solve it. And I think they were kind of okay with the way that Georgia solved it sometimes. Like it felt kind of low risk at times. I will say, like, I think Aller's been playing really well, honestly. Like, even when they kind of bogged down against Boise, I still like the way that some of the misses happened or some of the misconnections happened. I mean, the one ball down the sideline probably should have been caught. The one to Warren on third down where he slides in the pocket pretty well. Like, it's a hard catch for Warren to make. It's also a pretty safe throw. Like it's not at risk of being picked. So, like, to me, Drew is still doing a good job of avoiding picks like he did last year, but he has amped up the difficulty level and the risk taking. Like, not the risk taking, but like he's pulling the trigger a little bit more when I think he should. And it wouldn't surprise me if he just has a really good game. I mean, a little bit, I guess, because obviously, like, Notre Dame's cover guys are way better than Boise. So
right,
he's going to have to continue to play pretty well. But I think he is playing a little better than the numbers suggest.
Yeah, I also think part of that, they didn't really respect Boise's corners. And they're just like, F it, let's take some shots.
Just go rip it. Yeah.
Hey,
that guy, just toss it up there. Either our guy will get it or it's going to be
nobody will. Yeah.
Or nobody will. Yeah.
And they also didn't think if they did turn it over, they didn't really think Boise was going to drive the ball down the field on him 80 yards.
Shout out to Kim in the chat. She pointed out he's playing with more confidence. I think that's clearly evident. I go back to last year in Columbus, this year against the Buckeyes at home. He looked just a little tentative. I think he's playing better. It's not gonna blow you away with some of the, because it's not 350 yards and 4 touchdowns and 0 picks, but he's getting kind of those tough yards, running the football. I think he's been more confident with his legs. I mean, the throw that he made to Tyler Warren in the back of the end zone was like maybe one of the best throws of the year, and considering the magnitude of that. I get it's Boise State, but I think he's playing with a ton of confidence.
Who's got the coaching edge?
I think Penn State, but not by a lot.
Yeah, I'm pretty split on this.
Yeah.
I mean, if we go to coordinator,
I've seen both screw up late game situations too many times to really want to take one over the other.
Before we get to big game James and Marcus Freeman and like management and any of those things, I was thinking from a coaching past the chalk battle, Kotelnicki against Al Golden is awesome.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Like that is for this season, if in coordinator offense defense type battles, those are two of the best at their individual coaching positions. And they have had great units, obviously, to be able to help them go execute the plan. But in terms of the elaborate or exotic looks that Al Golden can bring to really throw a quarterback off of his mark, obviously all the different formations and the different ways that Kotelnicki moves the pieces around, that matchup to me is phenomenal, and I'm excited to watch it.
Denbrock versus Tom Allen's good too.
Denbrock versus Tom Allen is pretty good too.
Hypothetical.
Okay.
The year is 2015. You're a college football fan. You're watching the Miami Hurricanes play on a Saturday afternoon. And there's Al Golden on the sideline, his shirt, his tie, just looking like Al Golden. And then for some reason you are
going to give you a hell of a deal on Enterprise Rent-A-Car.
For some reason you are frozen, like cryogenically. And you're awakened 9 years or now 10 years, I guess, later. And you turn on and the first thing you see is the Orange Bowl. And there's Al Golden. They're showing you him on the sideline. Do you recognize him at all? Do you realize that is the same person?
So the high and tight sort of fade versus the comb over, the glasses that have been,
He doesn't look like it's like every time they show Al Golden, I'm like, that's not Al Golden.
Okay, hold on. So you said 2015, right?
Yeah.
So am I frozen on October the 25th, 2015? Because that would be one day after Clemson beat Miami 58-0 in Hard Rock Stadium. If you freeze me the day after Al Golden loses to Clemson 58-0 in Hard Rock Stadium and then wake me up and tell me everything that's happened, yeah, that would be remarkable. I mean, Al Golden back in his old stomping grounds, advantage, disadvantage, who's to say?
He got a raw deal from Miami, by the way. Remember they were telling him like the sanctions weren't going to be bad at all, and then they ended up being like really bad. Like they just straight up lied to him.
Last two coaches who have been ousted at Miami have their own reasons to be able to believe that they did not, that they got a raw deal, right? I mean, with Manny Diaz's results that different than Mario's results?
No, but Mario's potential is much higher because of who his friends are with the NIL stuff. Like Manny was not going to have billionaire buddies from high school. Like that's the difference. I totally get why Miami did it. And the way they did it was shitty.
Right.
But they did pay him out the buyout.
Right. So it's like you got your money and now you've got another job and you're, everything all's well that ends well, I guess would be that argument there.
Miami was not going to have NIL money like that on the level they have now. Like that's why you went and got Cristobal, not for the coaching aspect.
Now that Evan Shapiro is loose, are we betting big on Miami again next year?
It's a good principle.
Not time.
Let's go. All right, let's any other final thoughts here on Penn State Notre Dame before we move on to the game in Dallas?
Do you think that Notre Dame plays a little more zone with some of the ways that Penn State tries to like get you with some of the shifts?
Yes.
And some of I do too.
Yeah. Also, too, is I just keep uploading to see what the deal is with Abdul Carter because I think he's a massive presence, obviously.
He's fine.
Well, here's what
he's not fine. Nobody's fine.
No.
But he's playing.
He is playing. Could he re-injure himself? Yes. Like they're going to do an upper body arm injury that could work out fine. He could play through it, or he could re-injure himself. We'll see. So, all right, then we move on to Friday night's game, which will be the Cotton Bowl semifinal. It is the Texas Longhorns against the Ohio State Buckeyes. Danny, where does this start to pull apart for you?
I think how Texas' offensive line plays against Ohio State's defensive front from a standpoint of can they run the football, which they haven't been great recently, and can they protect Quinn Ewers? That to me is one of the biggest question marks I have in the game because I feel like for Texas to have a chance in this game, they probably have to score because of what Ohio State has opened up. I know Texas defense is pretty good, but I don't think they're going to be able to stop this Ohio State offense. So in order for them to put points against Ohio State, I think it comes down to that offensive line.
I mean, Quinn Ewers has more turnover-worthy plays than big-time throws per PFF.
Mm-hmm.
On the season or the playoff?
I think on the season, if I was sorting it right. Like,
I mean, I knew that
like if it's not schemed up for him, I am interested in how aggressive Ohio State wants to play defensively. Now, against Oregon, they did not play quite as aggressively in terms of the number of guys they sent beyond the line of scrimmage. Like they were crowding it, but they weren't actually sending them across. Like they were just kind of flooding some of the short stuff, especially I think with Stewart out. How aggressive do they want to be? I think I want to be pretty aggressive because Ohio State's also increased tempo the last 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they want to play a little bit faster, and they're okay with getting in more of a shootout with Texas. I don't think they want to play like a super, super slow game.
I mean, if I'm Ohio State, it is 100%. I am willing to create more possessions because we think that we're going to be able to go out. We think our quarterback's playing better. We think we've got more good wide receivers. We think we can run the football better with our duo of running backs. Like the principle of you create more possessions, you give the more talented team more chances to win. Buckeyes 100% should be out there just letting it fly because while Matthew Golden has become Quinn Ewers' go-to guy. And some of that, what is it? The best ability is availability. While everybody else is getting banged up and in and out of the lineup, Golden's been the only one that was there. And
is that a good thing?
Is that a good? I was gonna say,
Like,
and
does he scare you that much? Like that's what I'm asking.
he has answered the call in ways that have been impressive. They have needed for him to make some big time catches. He has made some big time catches, but on like a pure scouting standpoint, you're not putting him. I mean, are you putting him fourth in the Ohio State wide receiver room?
Probably third.
Ahead of Tate?
Yeah. I mean,
But that's a debate, right?
Texas kind of needs like 100% Bond to play like at his ceiling.
Yeah.
I think to win this game. They're also getting Cam Williams back, right? The right tackle.
Right.
That could be huge.
He was questionable going into the quarterfinal. He ended up not playing, but I would expect, given the work that he did to try to get ready for that he's going to be good to go.
I think Ohio State's going to kill him.
Yeah.
I really do. I mean, if you look at in the playoff, there have been 3 close games, if you want to count the Boise State Penn State one, because that did, like, the touchdown late in that game made it look bigger than it was. But there have been 2 other games where it was still kind of one score in the fourth quarter. Guess who was involved in both? Texas against Clemson, and then Texas blowing that second half lead against Arizona State. I think the interesting part of this matchup will be that defensive line of theirs against the Ohio State offensive line, which has looked much better. Maybe if they could make them look like they had about a month ago, Texas is able to make this a game and slow down the Ohio State offense. It's just nothing about Texas for the last month has really been that impressive to me on offense. Like, we talked about how in the Clemson game, yeah, they solved their red zone problems, okay? But guess who has a horrible red zone defense? Clemson. They were able to just run the ball on them because Clemson couldn't stop the run. And if you look at their last 4 games, going back to Texas A&M, in the red zone, they are scoring 3.19 points per possession, which is terrible, especially for an elite team. Like, on the season, Texas, which has been average, is at 4.34. So they've been 1.2 points fewer in these last 4 games. Guess who has the best red zone defense in the country?
It's Ohio State.
It's Ohio State. So your kicker is missing field goals. You're unable to finish drives. And now you're going against a defense that is playing on fire, who has been exceptional in the red zone all season long. Unless you are able to scheme up those explosives in big plays for touchdowns, I think Texas is going to have a real problem scoring in this game. And I don't think they're going to be able to do it for what you guys were just talking about. So the more I look at this game, and I don't want to give away a lock, but I think Ohio State blows the absolute doors off these guys. Put it in your promo video. I don't care. I think you're going to get your ass kicked. Just be honest with you.
I think there is some chance that Texas defense can get Ohio State to come back to earth a little bit offensively. Yeah. Like, they've been redlining about, like, that's probably the absolute best they can play. And Texas defense, I think, is pretty good. I don't think it's quite as good as the numbers say, because they just played a lot of really, really iffy offenses that also had like backup or even third string quarterbacks, which juiced the numbers some. But I mean, I don't think Texas defense is going to play as bad as Tennessee did or as bad as Oregon did. Just my opinion. So maybe Ohio State's offense comes back to earth some. Ohio State's defense feels pretty bankable to me, though.
Yeah. I think you can say Texas's defense is deserving of its maybe not its specific numbers, but it is deserving of being in there as among the best defenses in the country. You just look at them. I mean, just like look at the bodies that are there, look at how many of them there are, and look at how many times you're like, oh my God, where did Colin Simmons come from? Or like, that pocket was just absolutely destroyed by Vernon Broughton getting the push inside, or Jahdae Barron, one of the best defensive backs in the country, coming up with a big play. Like, there's enough there to not think that there's some kind of, shout out to Gary Parrish. Like, they're not a computer tricker. Like, they are not like unworthy of being considered the defense as their strength, because it sure as hell is not the red zone offense. It is not the quarterback position specifically. And so the reason why Texas is here, and the reason why Texas has been a top team for most of the season, really has come in large part thanks to that defense, which I do think is of championship caliber and the stronger part of the team.
Another just little factor here on the season. Defensively, Texas ranks 3rd nationally in explosive play rate allowed. It's 7.49%. Okay. Do you know what their explosive play rate allowed has been in the 2 playoff games?
Higher.
11.59% against Arizona State and Clemson. Now they're facing Ohio State. Like we talked about it during the year, and it was used against Texas. Like, who is Texas actually beat? Like we heard that all season long. They've gotten to the playoff and they've won twice, but you can argue that their 2 wins in the playoff have been 2 of their worst games this season. And now they're playing the best team they've seen by far.
Do you think there's anything to be said for home field advantage?
No, because it's going to be 32 degrees and full of snow. Ohio State has the home field advantage. Their bus will know how to drive to the stadium. Texas's won't. They'll be slipping and sliding all over the place.
I'm curious to see what you mentioned, Jade Barron, Michael Taff, who had the non-targeting call, because he would have been out the first half if they had gone on to win, which was very much. I'm curious to see what they do against Jeremiah Smith and Ibuka and the weapons that they've got, because he's been the beast. How do they slow him down, if at all? It's a huge matchup.
It's a good game. Ohio State travels, by the way. Like it's I am not going to in a lot of scenarios, I am not going to be out here assuming that Ohio State is going to get dwarfed in terms of fan representation in any stadium with this many tickets available. So it may be in Dallas. There are going to be a lot more Texas fans that have an ability to make it there, but I'll be fairly surprised if it ends up being just swallow them whole. Who's got the coaching edge?
It's not Michigan on the other sideline. I mean, I would say overall, I love Steve Sarkisian. I think Steve Sarkisian is an incredible coach. I think he's one of the best play callers and best play designers that we have in the sport. Overall, and this is not a knock on Texas's staff. It's a very good staff, but the Ohio State staff is Ryan Day, Chip Kelly, and Jim Knowles. Like, I think if you pair the 3 together, I give Ohio State not a huge edge, but a slight edge.
I think I agree. Have we talked about the other stuff at Ten Hills?
I mean, you're talking about the other options that'll be there, like the fact that when we're watching the Orange Bowl, that the game is going to be on the big screen with concert sound using the venue's PA. And if you want to eat there, oh baby, half price pizzas and drink specials. So we're going to have concert sound for the Orange Bowl at Tannehill's. There'll be servers in the concert hall, full food and beverage service during the game, and bringing in a few extra televisions and opening up the connecting lounge for the watch party. Again, half-price pizzas, drink specials, full service in the concert hall, opening up the lounge so that everything's connected. When we said watch party, we weren't just saying like, BYOB. No. We are going to make this so easy for you. You just have to get to Tannehill's. And if you get to Tannehill's, we've got a night full of college football entertainment, the Cover 3 podcast, with the Orange Bowl on the big screens with extra TVs, concert sound, pumping it through the PA. So make sure that you come and do that. So as we hang out, enjoy some college football talk. Look, the Q&A portion of this live show, y'all got to come with some cues, okay? So you bring it. I'm not going to say anything. Most things anything can go, right? Are we willing to answer almost anything?
I mean, pretty much almost anything. Also, this is an indoor venue. Probably won't have a huge line outside. Come inside, stay warm for us, which is good. It's going to be 32 degrees. I don't know how we're going to handle that. I don't know you can handle that. Just go inside Ten Hills with us.
100%. So one more time, you see, Tom, you got that QR code right above your shoulder. If you're watching on YouTube, youtube.com/cover3, you can hit that. We also have the link in the episode description. Will there be a dentist reveal? Says the tailgate. Efforting. There is a potential of some dentist involvement. For sure. So make sure you come and hang out with us. We will look forward to it. We'll be continuing to give you reminders. We will be back Tuesday, 11 a.m. Eastern time. We will do our official college football playoff semifinals locks. More information on the live show as well. And you can follow him on Twitter at Tom Fornelli. You can follow him at Danny Kanell. You can follow him at Bud Elliott 3. You can follow me at Chip _Patterson. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
See ya.